And I wore a little bit of color for you. I'm going to show that. I don't typically wear too much color.
Oh, you wore
K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook. Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Whatever on Wednesday. My guest today is my friend and a mentor. And, I always say coaches need coaches. Heidi's been my confidence coach. It's Heidi Ricardo, and she's one of Australia's premier confidence coaches and personal coaches. So I'm also lucky and blessed to call her my friend. Hi, Heidi. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Joanne. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? Tell us a little bit about Australia. What time of year is it there? What season? What's happening there? Are there any of the? I think the first time we spoke, you were in the national park and there were kangaroos hopping around. Are there any kangaroos in your room today? Give me the scoop.
No, I'm actually in Sydney. No kangaroos hopping down the street in Sydney today. However, we are in our third week of lockdown. And so this is a time when if you think that you're a confident person and you have free energy, this is a great time when you're probably being challenged to use all those tools that you've learned over the years to be confident. This is the time when it really counts because people are being challenged, people are being limited, which therefore means that they have to create more freedom within themselves. Great time to practice confidence.
So let me ask you, why are you in lockdown? Is there another COVID outbreak there, or what is the scenario there today?
There has been another COVID outbreak in Sydney 3 weeks ago, and it was the first day of the school holidays that we went on into a lockdown. And so we've had two weeks of school holidays, plus now the first week of school being back. It's been cancelled and everybody is now in lockdown. It seems that it might go for longer. However, people are being very optimistic, but it could go longer, which means that more and more we've got time in our hands, free time. And if we don't do something positive, something constructive with our energy, we end up using it in a negative way. And so that's the thing with our energy, feeling good or not feeling good. We've only got one choice. It's either good or bad, positive, negative. So it's a time when people are really, really having to dig deep and decide to put their attention and their focus into something positive, using this experience, this time of being in lockdown, to make some positive changes in their lives.
And I know, yeah, it is important. And I know that we've spoken. So I'm glad that you're choosing a positive activity and joining us tonight. So we're lucky. We're certainly fortunate. And we've spoken many times. We've spoken many times, and that's really how I got into all of this podcasting, really to get myself through COVID, because I was in a little bit of a negative place here in I'm from New York, and in the US it was really hit New York very hard here, COVID, and we're on the other side of it looks like, in this country. We do have some variants here, but we're opening and life is returning to normal. I'm actually at the beach this week, and things here are open for the first time. It's really fun. It's fun to really be someplace else, to be at the ocean and to be able to enjoy some activities that we haven't been able to do for the last 2 summers. So it's really, maybe it was just one summer, actually, last summer. So it's great, and I hope that things turn around over there, of course, and we're thinking of you and everybody in Australia. So I just want to put that out there. But I think that you're exactly right I think you're exactly right that it's not only our confidence, but it's really everything about our lifestyle. I think that for the first time in our lives, we never would have imagined losing our independence and our autonomy, and that's really what's happened across the world. And how do you suggest what are the tips and strategies that you would, because we have a global audience here, coast to coast, and what are the tips and strategies that you suggest for people to stay in a positive frame of mind in a negative circumstance?
Great question, Joanne. Honestly, I think that this whole situation where people are being told what they can and can't do, this is making people question who am I? What is my life about? What am I wanting to do with the rest of my life? How do I feel? How do I think? These sorts of things are starting to become important to people. And this is a wonderful thing, because the more you become aware of how you think, how you feel, how you go about living your life, the more you realize you've actually got a choice. It seems like we have to be listening to the news, we need to be listening to other people telling us what we can and can't be doing. But freedom and choice is always within us. I refer to some of the people in history who have been some of the greatest thinkers, and the times when they have liberated themselves in their thinking has been when they have not had that physical freedom. They've been able to, within themselves, know, I have freedom. I have the space within my mind, within my emotions, to choose how I want to live my life. And that is ultimately what every single person has to come to terms with in their lifetime. So this is a wonderful opportunity to see how are you thinking, how are you feeling, how are you living, how much of your own personal power are you handing over to other people, the authorities, the media, etc. And how much are you ready to take your power back and to decide for yourself, how do I want to feel right now? How do I want to think about this situation? You've always got a choice.
I think that I want to take that a step further. So, and you know me fairly well, and you know a little bit. I'm not going to spill all of my personal life here today, but you know that for the past year or two, or even before COVID, I've really been taking a closer look at my personal life, and really exactly those things. I'm looking at the relationships in my life. I'm looking at my career path. I'm looking at the potential to die with regret. And I think that there's an awareness. I certainly have a self-awareness about what I want and what I don't want in my life. But there's, as you know, there have been times in my life that I live a fear-based life, and making that transition and that leap, knowing is one thing, but acting on it is another. And I think it's multifaceted, right? So we're examining ourselves and we're learning things about ourselves. But I think that if we're not willing to take the action, it's almost that knowledge is even more detrimental than not the examination, because now deep down you know what's not serving you, and you're afraid to act on it. So what do you think about that?
Oh, I think that there's a lot of things going on in that, Joanne. A fear of acting on it. I wouldn't necessarily believe that there is a fear of acting on it. I would think that there is an immaturity in that. And in life, we're always moving in this growth into a greater sense of maturity. If you look at nature, it starts as a seed, it gets planted, it grows into a tree, it's coming into its own fruition. And human beings in their lives, we're coming into our own fruition. We're learning about how to be independent, like honest and true to our own feelings, at the same time as living in collaboration with other people who are also honoring that truth. So I would feel that at the moment there is this awakening of people realizing that they have a choice in life. And the more we get told or determined you can or can't do this, you can't leave your house, or you must have an injection, or whatever the situation is, we know we've probably been told you must do that. But really, you must decide for yourself, because your will is the strongest part in you. Every single one of us has a will that is determined to get what you want. All right? When your will is aligned with your values and your desires, then you are going to be moving forward feeling like you are a complete person. You're taking all of yourself with you. Whereas if you're trying to take actions, let's say to change behavior, but you're doing this behavior because you've been told by society or by your upbringing that you need to do that, but there's not that strong sense of will, there becomes like an inner fight going on. You want this, but you should be doing that. You know, and then we carry this feeling of like, oh, I feel guilty, I should be doing this for other people. But what we're learning at the moment is we have to feel ourselves. We have to come into our own maturity, fruition, like a tree, stand tall, you know, bring in that oxygen, give it back out into the universe, and coexist with all these other, you know, living things that are around us. We're not all the same. We don't all have to be determined, you know, what we should and shouldn't be doing. Now, I'm an independent thinker, I always have been, but I think that all of us, when we're ready to take that step in our lives, fear isn't even there. It doesn't exist. Fear is what is like, oh, I don't know. Well, none of us know. Just do it anyway and find out, is that right for you or not? Take another step, take another decision. Life's a bit more playful and fun, and requires us to be more like an explorer in our lives, rather than thinking we have all the answers. Now I'm going to go forward with everything I know. We're forever evolving, learning, integrating, expanding. You know, that's life.
All right, so you're calling me out. You're
shift
calling
of how we're.
I was going to say, you're calling me immature.
Okay.
You're calling me out right on in a global audience. You're always calling me out, so I don't know. You're supposed to be my guest here, so. But I think you're. I think I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You know, I'm into tough love, though, right?
I know, you're into
because tough love to most people is like, oh, that's too harsh. But I think that tough love is the ultimate in care, because if somebody's willing to tell you what they can see, it's very hard to sometimes see what's going on with ourselves, and it can take us years and years of, you know, going around in spirals trying to chase our own tail. But when someone else that we trust and we know has our best interest at hand, and they tell us something straight on, it can save us years of wasting our time and energy. So I do feel very grateful. Some of the moments in my life when I've had huge breakthroughs have been when someone has said something to me and I'm like, oh, so offended. I'm not like that, you know, but when I actually later take it in and feel it, I'm like, oh, yes, I am a drama queen and I create these problems in my own life, you know. So I have to become more mature in my understanding of myself, that this is maybe the game I've been playing for years, and when I'm ready to stop playing that and elevate, mature, then yeah, I can do it with what I have learned, what I've integrated, and what I've acted on.
So I'm going to challenge you a little bit on the maturity piece. So I think that there is a component of that, but I think it's also well, you tell me what you think. I think there's a level of maturity in being cognizant of other people in your life and the impact that your decisions can make on them. And I'm just speaking globally. We're not delving into my personal life. This is just a global, hypothetical, generic statement. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, people have relationships, with their allegiances to their family. They have children. They have, perceptions that they, and perceptions is a horrible word, but you have perceptions in your environment that you like to protect. What are your thoughts on that?
You did sort of skip out a little bit, in and out then. I think you were saying that when you have responsibilities to other people.
Yes. So isn't there a level of maturity there in being cognizant of other people in your life and the impact that your decisions and actions could have and the influence they could have on them?
Definitely, you're going to have an impact on other people, Joanne. However, in life, okay, and it depends on where you're coming from. I have learned a lot from Eastern philosophies. So I spent a lot of time living in India and, learning about meditation, this Eastern philosophy. I've also learned a lot about Western psychology. And I think that when you look at the Eastern philosophy, all right, there's this belief in karma. And karma is, people think that what that means is when you do something good to, for someone, or there's a good action, that you then get that good, you receive that. However, what karma really means, it's what you've been born into, the challenges that you need to become aware of to elevate above. And in my opinion, that, growing in awareness is actually coming to your maturity. So whether you're an individual, whether you're a family person, you're a teacher, whoever it is, we've got our own personal evolution in terms of expanding as conscious beings. How we then, share who we are with the world around us, whether it be, in our work or in our families, in our relationships, the more that we're evolved and we're self-aware, the more that we're able to let somebody else really get to know us. We can express that essence of who we really are. And there's that sense, Joanne, of somebody really knows me. Like I've always felt like it's very important through my life, not that everybody knows who I am, but at least one person really knows who I am. Now I'm in this lifetime learning myself who I am. But if I can let somebody else in on this journey with me, it might be a partner, it might be a friend, it might be a coach, it could be a mentor or a parent or anything. But when we have that other person who we let into our close reflection, when we do something, or we can see that reflection in ourselves from this other person, this is a maturing, this is a learning, a growing. And I see that the life experience, and even from the Eastern philosophy of karma, is that you can transcend this, and in your lifetime you can free yourself of your karma. You don't have to be carrying past lessons into your future. You can be aware here and now and then go forward, creating things the way you want them to be. So let's say, for example, your children, they might identify you as your personality. However, if you expand your personality, or I would say even up-level parts of your personality that you want to align and change with who you would like to be, then your children, their perception would also change. But this would be a true reflection, because life is always expanding and changing. It's never just staying the same. I couldn't say to you, who I am is the same person as I was yesterday or the day before. Every day we are evolving. And perception, you brought in the word perception. Perception is the way things appear. So if I look at something and I see the perception of it and the way that I look at it, it's going to be different to the way you perceive a situation because we see it from our own perception, our own eyes, our own vision of the world.
Agreed. So we do have.
That's a long answer, but I think I'm trying to tie that together in sense of maturity.
So you're still calling me immature. I'll take it. Let's bring up Annette's comment. We have a guest. I'm going to change the subject. Annette's saying,
if I call you immature, I'm also calling myself immature. We all are.
I know.
We're all evolving.
We're all evolving, and that is the one constant, the one absolute in this lifetime, that things are going to change. That change is inevitable across the board. So yes. Annette is saying she agrees. It's great to have a friend who knows her essence. So I don't know if she's talking about me, but I'm going to take the credit. Who I am is not who I am or who I will be tomorrow. That's absolutely true. I think that too, there's really something to be mindful of. One event, we could, something traumatic can happen. We can get a phone call in 1 minute that can really change our entire lives in just a moment. And I think that's, I want to loop back and tie it back into confidence. I think that when you have a sense of self, when you carry a degree of confidence, then you are prepared and equipped to handle whatever life brings your way. It's not that pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. And I've read that many times. And of course, if you had a death in the family, and you can speak to that better than anybody, and actually Annette can as well. If you suffer a traumatic experience, you carry that suffering for a time, but at some point you have to make the decision that you're going to move forward. And I'm certainly not minimizing anybody's loss, and I'm not suggesting that's an easy transition, but that's one of your areas of expertise, overcoming loss and helping people get through traumatic experiences. So, how does that tie into your confidence? I think that's something I wrote down before we came, that really in my life, relationships really dictate, and I've come a long way in this regard, but the relationships that I'm in and that influence has dictated a lot of my confidence and insecurities. If there's someone that I care for and there's some type of upheaval in that relationship, oftentimes that has derailed my confidence. And I think that for much of my life that was true. I'm in a much better place, and I'm evolving in regard to that. And I have a self-awareness and a real awakening in regard to relationships, and how I'm no longer going to let those relationships control my sense of value and worth. And I think that that's really an integral. I think that's a level of maturity. You got to give me some credit for that dose of maturity, Heidi. I have something going on for me. So what do you think about that?
You are very harsh on yourself, Joanne.
I'm teasing.
Maybe I don't give so many compliments because I'm always looking for the growth.
Speaking of compliments,
I love you, right?
I know. I love you too. And I love this next guy, Chris. You know who I want to bring up next, and one of my favorite guys, and he has a great comment. He's saying that's why he always tries to boost me up, and that's the truth. He's always making me feel like $1 million, and I appreciate that. So let's bring up Annette's last comments. It's the tools you learn to cope with the changes in your life, and that is true. It's really about learning. And you said something that. And I think you misspoke. I don't think that you meant to say this when you said we don't have to carry the lessons throughout our lifetime, but that's exactly, we don't have to carry the events and I think the circumstances, but we do want to carry the lessons, right? We want to carry the lessons that we learn into our next experience and just continue to evolve and become the best version of ourselves. I think that that's something also to be cognizant of. We're really running our own race. I'm not competing with anybody, and I don't want anybody to compete with me. I just want to be a better version of myself today than I was yesterday. and I think that that's really something that is a confidence builder. I think surrounding yourself with positive people really helps your journey and your confidence as well. And I think that, being forgiving of yourself, and I'm kidding, I'm kidding when I'm not really hard on myself. I think that I'm just teasing you, but I think that all right, you go. You tell me what you think. I've said I think too many times. I've noticed now that I'm live, I think, I say so, and I say, much too often. So I'm going to have to do some mindset work there and eradicate those 3 phrases from my repertoire and my vocabulary. You're on.
Jen. Okay, so ask me something specific there. There was a lot going on in that question.
All right. Oh, ask you something specific. What do you think about? So what do you think about relationships and their impact on your confidence? And how do you create confidence? We said, I don't want to go too far off topic. We said we were going to energize our lives by creating confidence. And how do people do that?
Can you repeat that? The sound went a bit funny. Say it again.
I said, one of our topics we said tonight where we were going to say, we said we're going to create confidence, but energize our lives by creating confidence and kicking inhibitions to the curb. I didn't use that terminology, but how do people create confidence? How do we do that? Give us some tips and strategies for that aspect of our lives.
Okay. All right. First tip, and I can't emphasize this one enough. I don't know whether I was born with it or I learned this behavior as a very young person, but I have always listened to how I feel. When I hear or I feel something, let's say somebody else is saying, Heidi, no, don't do it like that, do it like this. I listen to how I feel and I think, no, it's more important that I have the experience that I want to have. I'm all about expressing what I think. And as a child, I was the youngest of 6 children and I was told little girls should be seen and not heard. And I was always, fighting to have my voice heard and look at me, And I think that the confidence comes from that initial trying to be seen, trying to be heard, and just knowing, I knew deep within me that I always had something to say. And that when I was being silenced, I knew that's not okay to be silenced. I have the right to express myself. And I did have both a mother and a father that were very encouraging of my expression. So I might have been told sometimes to sit down and be quiet, but there were many moments, and I'm talking every day, where it was like, now Heidi will sing for the family, and now Heidi will play the piano or perform or... So in many ways as a child, I was put on this, sort of stage and told, oh, you're very good at this. So I started to believe that. I think that initially confidence comes from somebody else saying that's good or that's not good. We either gain that feeling of I can or I can't, because when we're very small and we're doing something, either somebody tells us and shows us they love us because we can do it, or we're rejected because we can't do it and we're not good enough. And that goes into the conditioning. And in order to change that conditioning as an adult, all right, if you don't have that self-belief there, like I got from my mom and dad, like, yeah, you're great on stage. If I had to work on that, and I did have to work on that over my life, because I had a huge loss where I felt like I lost my confidence and my abilities. So I had to learn to rebuild it without it coming from outside people, but from within me saying, Heidi, you can do it. And I had to work with my subconscious. I had to work with that part of the mind that's been conditioned from when I was a very small child, that is, like, be quiet and you don't have anything worthy to say, where now I have to train my brain. I am worthy. I am worthy of being seen. I'm worthy of expressing myself in the world. I have something valuable to say. And I had to train my mind. I had to train my mind at a subconscious level. I had to train my body and my mind to release like the emotion of that. Because if you're told to repress yourself, you become, there's emotion in there, like anger, and there's sadness, and there's a feeling of rejection. And this carries itself not only in the mind, but also in the body. And so you need to express that. I do every day. I do things with my energy to make sure my energy is moving into a positive vibration. So if I wake up in the morning and I feel like, oh, I feel tired, I feel sluggish, I don't want to do this or something like that, the first thing I do is try and move my body, because then I'm moving any trapped and stuck emotions. And then I can start to speak into those with affirmations, with self-awareness, with meditation, with many other tools that I have learned over the last 20 years of personal development.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. And I think that I had a similar experience where I wasn't singing for anybody. And I love how you sing globally now. But I was taught from a very early age, but an incident happened. And, I had some, it was really from my grandfather. I certainly would never, I don't want anybody to get the perception that it was anything that my father did, because it wasn't. It really emanated from an incident, and I learned early on, that to fear men. And, people wouldn't know it today, but for a very long time in my life, I was afraid of men. And in some regards, I don't think I am anymore, but I was intimidated. It went on into my dating life. It went on into my career. It went on. And now, I'm very, I don't want to, I have many men friends, so I'll say that. And I think that really what happened is early on in my 20s. And it's very coincidental. Now I have a lot of male friends on the Coast to Coast network, but all of my girlfriends went away to college, and I was the only one who stayed home. And I went to college, and I was left behind with all of the boys. And I hung around with this really core group of 5 or 6 guys who really, I remember one day I came home and they came home with me, and we were going on a trip to visit one of my girlfriends, and one of the guys was dating her. And I went into the house, and they pulled up with their muscle cars. And, I went into the house, and my mother's like, what's going on? I'm like, well, I'm going away with, and I'll give them a shout out because I love them dearly. Al and Bill and my friend Mike. I said, we're going on a weekend trip. She said, well, I don't know what's going on with you and these guys all of a sudden. And I said, well, they're helping me come out of my shell. And I'll never forget, my mother said, well, get back in it. And I think that was really, they really helped me change my mindset. And from those great friendships, and I adore those gentlemen to this day, I started to blossom, and I became much more comfortable around men. And then I was able to date. I think that I've dated, I don't want to get into that, but, I think that I'm in a place now where I'm very comfortable around men. I enjoy being their friend. And I think that it's really broadened my life in so many perspectives. And it really was because my mindset changed. And I think that you really have to, and to one of your points, you really have to listen to your fans, the people who are close to you and are positive and want to build you up and be a positive influence in your life. And you have to disregard your whatever that word is. I don't, what's the opposite of fans? The people who don't support you, who don't serve you, who are negative and don't. Most of the time when people are negative, there's something's going on in their own lives, and they're projecting their personal feelings about themselves and their circumstances onto you. And so I'm always cognizant and mindful of that, and I don't let the opinions of others bring me down too much today. I don't want to say not at all, because of course I'm human, but I think that's a great point that you made, and I just wanted to expand on that.
So, sorry, but again, we cut out a little bit. So you said that you have people who are not supporting you, and what do you do with them? Is that the question?
I said, There really wasn't a question. It was a comment. I was just saying that you really to be mindful of the people who support you and to disregard the people who don't, because those people are negative people really are typically projecting the negativity in their own lives on you. It very rarely has anything to do with you, in my experience.
This could be just my own belief. All right, but this works for me. And I'm going to just explain this to you because my own circumstance. But I'm really of the thinking that we are all global citizens. Yeah, we are born into a family. And the way that our society is constructed is we think that the family, the blood, is everything to us. You know, those people that are in our early life are the people we need to take through all of life. And I actually don't live that way. I live according to who I feel supported by, who I love, who I can be myself. I really pay attention to how I feel when I'm in the presence of other people, whether they be family, whether they be old friends, whether they be, you know, colleagues, or even somebody I'm supposed to think is in a higher position of me and, you know, they should be put on a pedestal. I think we're all the same. And I genuinely think that as you go through your life, you have the choice to bring closer to you the people that mirror that way that you feel for yourself. So if you love and value yourself and you've got other people that are cutting in with comments or opinions or different things that in your opinion are really not coming from a loving space, and you can feel that where it's coming from, the intention behind something is everything. And what I notice is if I, because I used to be a little bit more giving than what I was receiving. You know, I felt like, oh, if I make a little bit more effort, then that person will start to reciprocate. But what I realized is this actually has nothing to do with this other person. This has got everything to do with how I feel about myself and then how I interact with other people. If I fill myself up and then I'm relating with somebody and they say something negative to me, that's going to be like water off a duck's back. And I won't even bother moving closer to have a further conversation. You know, right in that moment, I'll be able to say, hello, that doesn't resonate with me. Maybe we don't need to continue this conversation or this friendship. Or I've consciously unfriended people that I've known, 20 years, but I've felt like this relationship has stopped growing. It's stopped being honest. It's stopped feeling like we're connecting. Instead, we're going through some motion because we should. And I don't live by shoulds. I live by what I want to do, what I feel, and honor that. Nothing's more important. Nothing's more important than how I feel about myself. Nothing's more important than how you feel about yourself. Nobody else is more important to you than you.
I agree. And I want to speak to, I share a similar opinion that you do, that I believe that we can create our own families, that our families aren't necessarily only those people who share the same blood with us. And, there are people in my family that, not my immediate family, but extensions of that family. I'm always open to relationships with anybody, but if there is, and I think that, Annette and I talk about this all the time, that if I'm only now willing to meet people, invest in people to the same degree that they invest in me. I think that I'm a giver and I'm very generous, and I often have been in relationships where the same thing, where I think that, well, if I just give a little more, this person's going to love me a little more. But that's you can't force love. You can't force relationships, regardless of what you have to offer or give. And I think that, I think that is crucial and critical that you understand that. And just today, I'm going to say this, I'm now now engaging in your 30-day 30-day group. And today we had to set, or this past weekend, we had to set our intention. And this morning I woke up and my intention for the day was that I'm only going to honor and participate in whole reciprocal relationships. And then you called me out again. You told me I have to expand on that, which I haven't done yet. But that is exactly because of those points that an investment should be equal in a relationship, and not 50-50 every moment, but 50-50 somebody, and I'm willing to give 60-40, but when I need 50% or when I need 80%, I need it. And it's very often, I'm a strong independent person, but I want an investment. I want effort in an investment, and I want to be honored in that way. And I think that you taught me that you're one of the people who taught me that. Coaches need coaches. You're one of my mentors. And that's certainly something that I learned from you and your influence. And Annette called that up. You want to pull that, Chris, that comment up, and Annette knows me well, and she said, yes, that's you. I'm in that place now, and I'm in that space, and Annette has helped me get there as well. So I want to give her a shout out too, and I appreciate that. All right, you're on again, Heidi. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm on again. I don't know.
Like
I went off again.
You went off again. All right, so it's your turn. I was just praising you and the influence that you had in my life, and how you're one of the people who taught me that investment is important. We shouldn't be giving more than we're receiving, at least not 100% of the time.
I think when we're looking at life as if it's we've got to keep count. I did this, so you need to do that, and it's like this bargaining with life. This is conditional. This is like the way I interact with life is on a conditional basis. But if I do things unconditionally, when I get really, really clear about what I value in life and what I'm really doing, what I'm seeking is unconditional love. I'm seeking to give myself unconditional love. I'm seeking to accept myself with unconditional love. I'm seeking to have relationships with other people where I'm received and loved just as I am. Now, that doesn't always mean that in every relationship, what I give, the other person gives, the same thing. But what happens is there is a feeling of exchange, of giving and receiving freely, not of I only do this when you behave this way, or because this is what we're trying to uncover in the mindset is all of these belief patterns, all these conditions. I'm only lovable if I'm a good girl. I'm only, worthy if I am this weight. All these things that we've been taught in our minds, they're conditions. And when we really start to love ourselves unconditionally, and that is the focus, we then start to let other people love us as the imperfect beings that we are, and that's absolutely fine. But we have to embrace that fully within ourselves first if we're going to have these kinds of relationships. And we all know that kind of level of unconditional acceptance, it's very rare in relationships. We see it in mother-child type relationships, but there's not many other relationships in life where we see it. And when we see it, it absolutely, floors us. It brings tears to our eyes of joy, and we can see here is this unconditional bond. And when I talk to you about maturity, I almost feel like coming into that self-love is you're mothering and nurturing this little child within you. You're the one that's saying to her, come on, you can do it. You can believe in yourself. You don't need all of these people out there to tell you what's possible in your life. You need the adult version of yourself to work with the immature, the baby or the child in you, and allow them to be this whole together. They can be vulnerable and strong. They can be determined and flexible. You know, there's all these different sorts of qualities to having a relationship with yourself, having love with yourself, and then being able to take that out into the world. We really can't do that with other people unless we can do it with ourselves. We're coming from a place of I need this from you in exchange, and it becomes a condition. But when it becomes fulfilled within itself, it becomes unconditional.
You know, I'm going to be honest, and I want to bring up Annette's comment, Chris. I don't know if unconditional love is possible outside of ourselves. I think that, you know, so Annette's saying we all want unconditional love. However, people don't show their true selves for a long time. Then what you thought is not always what it is. But I think especially in intimate relationships, I have never been in a relationship where somebody has loved me unconditionally. I think that I have the capacity to love unconditionally, and I think you're right. The only relationship in my life was really my parents who loved me unconditionally. I think that I have loved people unconditionally, but I think it's very difficult to find, and it's a rarity. I don't know if it's. I don't even know if it's possible. I know it's possible because I've done it, but I don't believe that very many people have that capacity for love. I think that there are too many insecurities, and I don't think we always show our entire selves, and there's always the risk of vulnerability and being hurt. I mean, we have emotional insecurities, we have physical insecurities, and it's really tough to find somebody who's going to embrace all of those things about us.
Yeah, but I guess the thing is that even the people who did love us unconditionally, like I'll use myself as an example. My mother and my father both loved me unconditionally. However, as a human being, our tendency is to look to what didn't work out right and to hold on to that. You know, so obviously our parents weren't perfect. My mother didn't unconditionally love me all the time, even though I knew she did love me. There were still times there where, you know, there was friction in the relationship. There was friction with my relationship with my father. So years later, I can look back and I say that's an unconditional loving relationship. However, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't perfect, and our relationships with ourselves are not perfect. We can have these you know, times when we judge ourselves. Quite often when we're judging the outside world, we're really judging ourselves. And so when we are not accepting something in our lives, we've fallen, you know, and we can pick ourselves back up, bring ourselves back to this present moment. Just forgive the fact that we lost our awareness for a while there. We, you know, went into the old conditioning, and to decide again to align ourselves here and now with what we want to believe, what we want to think about ourselves, what we want to feel, where we're going, and to just keep on getting back to this point of zero right here, right now, and where you want to go into the future. This is, I think, that the real growth in life is when you start to honor this. You're not running around all the time looking for someone else to make you happy. You're taking that time every day just to check in, fill yourself up first, then go about your day. That to me is confidence.
Yeah, that is confidence, and it's difficult to achieve. But I think that, you know, that I study neuro-linguistic programming, and one of the presuppositions of that is that projection is perception. Our perception is based on what we're projecting in our view of the world. So I think that you really have to accept that other people have different viewpoints of the world, even the same occurrences. I mean, in communication, we can believe that we're communicating something, but the real meaning of communication is what the other person deciphers from what you're telling them. So if your intent is to project and deliver one message and somebody doesn't receive it in that same vein or in that and doesn't grasp your meaning, that means that you need to communicate it in a different way. So everything is about projection and perception, and our viewpoints don't necessarily resonate the way that we hope or want them to. And I think we have to be mindful of that and think about communication and what we're trying to project and make sure that people understand what we're trying to tell them. I think communication is the number one component of a healthy relationship. If you have a reciprocal communication style and you understand what each other is telling, you understand what each other is trying to convey.
Yeah. Well, you cannot have a conversation with somebody when you're coming from a spiritual, place or an unconditional loving space if this person is coming from the ego. You need to be, if you're having an open, respectful relationship, you have to be talking from the same place. And I think that if you're talking about, who you carry forward, who's your family, who's your tribe, who are the people you surround yourself with, they're usually the people that you feel like they understand you, that they get you, that you have the same meaning of words. The way that the words are used, there is a mutual understanding. However, obviously we go around our lives every day only talking to people that are from our same way of thinking. We're interacting. I don't necessarily think that everybody has to know how I feel or how I think. When I'm speaking and I'm expressing myself, I will resonate with people who are on my vibration. Anyone who's not on my sort of vibration, they won't like what I've got to say, or they just wouldn't feel what I have to say. And that's absolutely fine. I don't have to be liked by everybody. We don't have to be everyone for everything or everything for everyone. If we're true to ourselves, we attract those people that want to come closer, and if they want to go further away, well, that's fine too. So I guess I'm a little bit more. I don't have relationships in my life where I hold them and then go, all right, this is something I know I have for the rest of my life. Maybe that's come because I've had many people die in my life, but I have learn to see relationships more as something that flows in and flows out. I'm with people, I'm by myself, and actually both is good. I like both. I like to be alone sometimes. I like to be with people sometimes. I want to ask someone's opinion sometimes. Sometimes I don't care what anyone else thinks. I only care about my opinion. I think human beings, we're dynamic. And when we really honor our unique, way that just we are, we're going to have all sorts of different circumstances happen in our day. And I think it's fine. I'm quite okay with having not everything in every day has to go well and everyone was like, oh, wow, we all love each other. And we're not playing fantasy land. This is reality. But we're learning to put ourselves into that big picture and say, all right, well, it's a good world. Because if you think that it's a bad world and everyone's bad and it's all negative, you'll see that. You can't trust anyone. I fear everything. No, you just decide that this is what is important to me. This is what I value. This is what I want. When I'm in situations, I honor my feelings. There's nothing. I think it's quite simple. It seems simple to me.
Well, I love that. You have a sense of freedom about you that I don't. I'm not quite as carefree as you are. And I love that about your personality. I think that I'm aspiring to be that. But I want to say something about something that you said. And I don't exactly remember what you said, but it's about, people disliking us. But I tell my sons this all the time. There are always going to be people in life who dislike you. That's just reality. There are people in my life I don't like, and I'm sure that there are many people who don't like me. Maybe not many, maybe one or two. But I'm kidding. But of course, and that's the reality of life. And I think that there are people who just always want to be liked, and I think it's particularly when we're younger, we want to be liked, of course. And I think that I'm going to pull out your maturity word. That is a sense of maturity when you understand and recognize that not everybody has to like you. You're not going to like everybody else, and that's just a facet of life that is just a fact. It's factual. So I think that that's an important point, and especially young people, don't try to get everybody to like you, because not everybody is your person. And you don't need everybody to be your person. Exactly what you said. The world is dynamic. People are dynamic. So don't worry about that. Don't worry about being liked. You don't want to be disliked by everybody, because like you said, people, and somebody told me this week, that we're not geared to be alone continuously. And I think that is true. And the older I get, I think that I'm independent, but I am recognizing that connection is very important too. And I crave both. I crave moments of solitude, but more often now I'm craving moments of companionship, because I think that I recognize too, there's a mortality, in a sense that life is short. And I think that COVID really brought that home for me. Life is short, and I don't want to die with an overabundance of regret. I'm not saying that I won't have any regret, but I want to be in a place where it makes me happy. You're going to be proud of me there, Heidi. I want to live a full, happy life. And to do that, I know that I have to make some adjustments and adapt to certain things in my life. So, my gosh, I don't think I've seen you this happy the whole show. You're so thrilled. I'm throwing that out there.
Wow. I'm gonna say something though, Joanne.
All right.
You know me, always looking for that angle.
All right.
What do you mean? What do you mean you're gonna die only with a couple of regrets? What?
Well,
regrets zero.
Yeah, well, that's the goal. That's the goal, perhaps, to have zero. But I think that there are regrets that I can't go back and turn back the clock. So I think I can't change some regrets that I have from my past. I accept them, and I know that you can't love yourself if you hate any part of your journey. And let's not call them regret. I think that there are things that I wish I had done differently earlier in my life. So I'll rephrase to appease you. I won't call them regrets. I'll call them life lessons.
I always, when I take something from the past to integrate it into now, I always word it in a way so that I feel like it happened for my greatest good. I have this way of anything that's ever happened in my past, it happened because of my state of awareness. So if I did something silly, if I made a mistake, if I wasted 10 years on something, whatever, I don't see it as a regret. I choose to see it that it was a long learning lesson, and I'm just so grateful that I understand it now. Some of the things that I understand now, and this is something that I like about myself, all right? I like that I don't take a bit of information that I read and then go, okay, now I know it. I take a bit of information and then I take it out into my life and I give it a run and I see, does that actually feel right for me or not? And if something feels right and it resonates through an experience, then I can integrate it as something I know. Learning all of these things that we're out there doing and learning and experiencing in books and podcasts and whatever. These are all amazing, but it's the trigger to then go out and put it into your life and see if this is a reality for you. See if this is actually a tool that is going to be in your toolkit. So if you ever get into a really, really hard situation, you can draw on that. And I think that through my life, I've had so many challenging situations, and I've been able to put whatever I've been learning to the test. And I know that, and I realized it last year when COVID was on, and I saw so many people struggling, and I was able to see how I actually wasn't struggling. And why wasn't I struggling? Because I wasn't listening to what the world was telling me I should be thinking and feeling at that time. I stopped watching the news. And so I stopped. I mean, I still knew what was going on. I still saw a headline here or there, but I wasn't being influenced. I've been influencing myself over these years by having these experiences, knowing if something actually worked or had an impact on me, and then being able to take that into my life. And for many years, often not even sharing what I came to learn and know, because I wanted to integrate it and really understand it first before I could then, teach it to people and say, okay, this is a technique I've worked out. It works.
So I think, so we're at the top of the hour. We're at the last, we're overtime actually. So that's a great place to end on. I'm going to say that I'm going to end on a different note. I love your earrings. And it reminds me that I haven't worn earrings probably since COVID began. I have hundreds. I love earrings. I have hundreds of pairs. I'm going to have to break some out. You're inspiring me to do that now. You're always inspiring me to do something. I wore a little color for you today. I'm not in my usual muted colors. I expected you. Yeah, you're usually in fuchsia or lime or something. Okay.
I'm waiting for the shops to open again.
So I'm going to give you the 30 seconds to close. And then first, before you do that, I'm going to thank Chris. So he's our man behind the scenes. I can't have a successful show without his help and assistance. He's my main squeeze and one of my number one guys at Coast to Coast. Sorry guys, I gotta give it to Chris, especially tonight. He's helping me on double duty. So I'm gonna let you close it out, Heidi. What do you want to say in closing?
All right. I'd like to invite anybody who is listening and who would like to build their confidence and their energy, vitality. If they'd like to contact me, they can go to rawconfidence.com and they can book in for my 30-day energy reset program starting on the 21st of August. See you then.
All right, perfect.
Thanks, Joanne.
Thank you. I'll be talking to you shortly, probably within the hour.
All right.
All right. You can play us out.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day.
You too.
Evening.